we ready or? Okay, we are now streaming. I would like to call to order the Monday, June 21st meeting of the City of Monona Finance and Personnel Committee. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Thomas.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the June 7th meeting?
So move.
Second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. There are no appearances. There is no unfinished business. We have a couple of items under new business. Item 6A, approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Monona and the Wisconsin Professional Police Association regarding non-certified new hires and those attending the Police Recruit Academy. Is there a motion to approve this?
So move.
Second.
Chief Cheney Austin.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, Alder Thomas. Since it's probably a couple hours earlier there. This is something relatively new for the city, I think, and for the police department here. This MOU between the city and the police association. In essence, a lot of the language brought forth as far as the agreement and the percentages, whatnot, were brought forth by the association. It's nothing that I offered or suggested. It's something that they had used and currently use and with other law enforcement agencies throughout the state as far as the WPPA is concerned. And so it's my understanding that they captured a lot of the language from comparable agreements. I did have our city attorney, Bill Cole, review this, and he made some changes to the document to better reflect the city's interest as well. And obviously, this was reviewed by our good city administrator and director of finance as well. So in essence, what this allows us to do is to place a newly hired police officer who does not have law enforcement certification into the Madison College or comparable police academy. That is academy that is 720 hours, and they're not a certified police officer while they're going through the academy. And so the association felt it appropriate that they, because of that, not be paid full status as somebody who walks in the front door as a fully sworn police officer that the police department has traditionally hired. This pays them 75% of the higher wage listed in the agreement that currently stands with the city and the labor association. It does leave language in there to say that if they were to work for the police department and in essence not attend the academy, which I don't plan on doing, my plan is that from their first day is the day that they start at the police academy. But it does leave language in there that indicates that they will be, if assigned to what's considered field training, that they'll go back to being paid sort of full status, 100%, as if they were a fully certified law enforcement officer. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Mark?
For the financial part of it, the city will be paying for the academy costs, which would be tuition and books. So that with the offset with the 75% of the salaries, random number, there's no effect. So the cost is offset by the reducing the wages of 75% as far as that's concerned.
Anyone else have any questions? Alder Thomas.
What happens if they quit the academy or quit the Monona Police Department after they're halfway through, for example, and we've paid their tuition and their training?
Yeah, I'm currently working right now an agreement that the city would enter directly with the employee, and so it would not involve the association. It would be a pre-employment agreement that I just sort of sent to our city attorney to review. That would involve reimbursing the city for certain costs. However, you know, I think that there's some matters in which we hold them to that contract if the employee agrees to the contract. What I mean by that is that if they simply cannot make it through the process, or say they get injured during the process, or they resign early on during the process, I think we'll have to look at the language in that agreement and come to a consensus with me and the city administrator to think if we ought to pursue holding them to reimbursement for the $6,000 or so that it costs them to put them through the academy. But I can tell you that as Mark mentioned, that if they were resigned prior to that, then obviously the city would not have to pay for their benefits and their 75% salary. So it's not like we'd be out the money of the tuition and some of the costs associated with the academy, but it wouldn't as if we'd be out of tens of thousands of dollars in that case. Does that answer your question, Alder?
It does sort of, but the question is, do we want to sign this agreement before you have the agreement with them finalized?
So
I trust your judgment on this. I'm just asking.
Yeah, so the MOU is a contractual thing between the labor association and the city as to what they would pay, what they would agree to the salary would be for any officer working for the city of Madison or city of Monona. I knew I'd slip up one of these days, for the city of Monona. And so that is sort of has to be an amended sort of language contract between the city and the association. So that's what this MOU tries to address. The pre-hire agreement is something that is individual to that employee, that they agree to reimburse the city for a certain cost associated with us, in essence, providing them with training that is beneficial to not only us, but mainly to them, should they choose to, say, see a Monona PD after graduating from the police academy. That's what the intent behind that is that we would be reimbursed for that. And so you sort of have two different things, and I don't think necessarily you need that pre-agreement to be ironed out before this memorandum of understanding between the association and what exactly that employee would be paid.
Thank you.
Alder Wood, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So this is a change from the way we do things now, correct?
Yes.
We don't pay for people to go to the academy. They come, they apply, they've already gone through it. So what benefits do you see to the city from this new approach?
Yeah, we're already seeing that. So currently we're in the interview process for candidate positions for police officer. And I think so far the feedback I've gotten that it has opened up our candidate pool. My guess, I don't have this as a matter of fact, but my guess is that this probably is one of the most diverse candidate pools we've seen. Of course, it isn't the largest because I think all in law enforcement are seeing a downward turn in the amount of people applying to be police officers. But I will say gladly today's one of 2 days in which we're doing oral board interviews in which we've seen a diverse group with respect to women and people of color that are applying to become a police officer for the city of Monona. And I think, by opening up our candidate pool to not restrict it to those who are currently certified as law enforcement officers, it gives others an opportunity to sign up and to become officers, and we will then train them the skills to do the work. And so I think the benefit is that the city is going to be gaining, hopefully, a more diverse workforce when we, do this method. And it's, we may not, the final candidate may be somebody who is currently a certified law enforcement officer, and we won't have to utilize this, pre-employment agreement or this MOU. But I want to be sure that we have these mechanisms in place in the event that our, solid go-to candidate that's going to do wonders for our city, that we have the mechanisms in place to put them through the academy, and hopefully we will see the return tenfold.
Great, thanks.
Alder Thomas.
Yeah, I'm assuming that if we don't have this in place and we hire someone who hasn't gone to the academy, they have to be a person of some means to put themselves through the academy if if
And-
we're not giving them a salary, and that may be difficult for people of, for people of limited incomes.
Yeah, so you're right. Thank you for bringing that point up too. So the police academy is 720 hours. So that's, what, 4 or so months. It's a Monday through Friday course, as if you're going full time as a college student in a semester. And so that's very time consuming. It costs roughly $6,000 or $5,000, give or take. And then there's other costs that are associated with that. That they will need, such as acquiring a duty belt where they will learn how to utilize their belt, and some other equipment that they will have to purchase. The city, in this case, will be providing all of that to them to include their tuition, while also paying them, and if according to this agreement, 75% of their salary.
Is this standard operating procedures for most communities?
It's hit or miss. I mean, some communities do pay for pre-service academies. Some do not. Typically, the smaller agencies like us do not. But then again, you're often limited with your candidate pool.
I would say it's a growing trend among departments in the Dane County area. A number of the smaller departments, as the chief mentioned, because they've kind of struck out on previous hiring processes, are looking at the possibility of putting students through the academy to ensure they get the person or persons that they want. So I think you will see more departments at least set up this as a potential bridge in the future. So we'll be one of many communities that have a similar agreement in place.
Alder Thomas.
Last question. So if we choose someone that we pay them the salary and pay them to go to school, when you have an agreement with them, will there be some kind of agreement that they would be with us for a couple of years or some such thing?
Yeah, I think the draft that I have that I sent to our city attorney, I think has either 3 years or 4 years, and that's just based on sort of the other agreements that are floating out there throughout the states, and some of the conversations that I've had with other agencies and police chiefs. Some are shorter than that. I think the city of Madison, for example, is the length of the probationary period, which starts from day one, and the probationary period in Madison, I think mirrors ours, is 18 months. And I thought that was too short of a time, and I extended that. I believe I said 3 years in that first draft I sent to Attorney Cole.
Thank you.
Alderwood, do you have any further questions?
No.
I'm just curious about the current pool that you have. Is like, what percentage would you say have not had the academy training?
I think that we're over half of them have not had the academy training. Overwhelmingly, those who have the certification are white men.
Okay.
And not to say that white men are going to be qualified and exceptional candidates here for the city of Monona. I just want to make sure that we open up the opportunities for those who may not. And oftentimes that reflects a more diverse candidate pool.
Okay. All right. Well, then if there aren't any further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Doug, did you say aye?
I did, yeah. Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up is the financial report. Mark.
This is the financial report through May of this year. Two things going on here. One, COVID was still in existence, or the shutdown was still kind of in existence overall until just recently. So the trends are the numbers are getting better, but we still have a little bit of a lag. So kind of page 8, license and permits, it should be at 41%, or 48% right now. That number, I believe, is going to, just looking at the current numbers I have through June here, we will be above budget on that. That's going to help us for some other areas. Kind of underneath that, fines and forfeitures. We're projected right now about $30,000 short for that budget number. That number could increase now with the COVID being over. things like that. Page 9, the interest rates are still not picking up, probably going to be a little short on that too. Probably about 30,000 towards the end with that. So I'm projecting, I don't have the projection for the license permits, but that's probably going to be about 40,000 over, 30,000 shorts for the interest in courts. So it's probably going to be give or take about $20,000 loss there. Anything can happen here in the next couple months.
I've got a couple of questions on that page. Where, and I'm not sure where, I'm just wondering where, I know that Chief McMullen is submitting a lot more of these claims for reimbursement for accidents on the Beltline. Where would that income be?
Page 9 under public charges for service. It says general government, law enforcement, and fire protection fees. We're just starting to get into, just recently we started billing those, so that number should pick up.
Okay, that is on page 9.
Yes. Fire protection fees under public charges for services.
Okay, and then the other thing I was wondering about is in terms of the school liaison officer with the schools, how much did you bill them for? Were we just charging from March on? Is that right? For the time
Correct.
he's actually in the school?
Yeah.
And is
So
he
he's
done
basically got
now?
1 quarter. What's that?
Is he done now for well, we don't know if it's
We
forever.
bill for 1 quarter, so I'll be billing here fairly soon for the 1 quarter.
And he's back on patrol now then? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Page 10. Legal. It says legal retainer. That's Bill Cole's cost. We only got 3 months worth of bills there. That's trending under budget, so there should be a savings there. It's going to be offset by a couple of lawsuits. We haven't reached our max yet for either one of the lawsuits that are going on. There still is a way to go on those two. So, but even I have June's numbers. That's still trending below budget. So that number is looking good for us so far. Page 12.
I have a question on page 11.
Yeah.
Why are the sustainability initiatives over budget?
It's actually under budget. They got a OI grant as we was paid out of that in last year, and I got the reimbursed for that. So it's actually
So I thought that was a negative.
negative means for when it's in the expenditure side means that we're actually
So we're okay with that.
it's actually a positive number. So
Okay.
if you look at the budget amounts like 2,500, he says the next number is 6,000, 5,000. That's actually how much left we got the budget. So it's added in there. So it's a positive number.
Okay. Thank you.
Page 12, there's a couple things. One, the elections, all the elections are done. So we'll have that almost $10,000 savings for that budget number. And that's one of those things we budget the same every year, just because some years it's over budget, under budget. We don't adjust it based on the number of elections. And right above that, on personnel, there's two numbers. Recruitment expenditures, that is the police chief search. That'll be coming out of fund balance in the end. Unemployment compensation, we have some employees that are still not back to work. So we're paying on that. I do have page 18, which is the parks budget. It's one of the budgets a little concerned about. I'm kind of working with Jake. I didn't mark it, but I was looking at it just recently. There's equipment maintenance and facility maintenance accounts. We're going to be over budgets on those. I think we're going to have some savings in the part-time wages to offset it. But we will be over budget in those items. For the park porta potties, and I got to reviewing this as Jake, see if we budget wrong or what happened on that account. We're trending over, but it's going to be probably about 1,000 by the end of the year. But I think we'll have enough savings in the wages part-time, so I'll set that. So the next kind I want to talk about is just the community fund or community rec funds, page 24. So page 24 is all the revenues we have. Mainly, most of them are Jake accounts. The kayak revenue is above budget. Some of these numbers are just starting. After school programs, summer camp fees, Grand Crossing. So we have those all broken out. But then if you go to the very next page, page 25, we are breaking out the part-time wages. So you see after school program, 38,000 of just salaries. Grand Cross is 18. We have revenues about 28,000. There's other expenditures down at the very bottom of Grand Crossing expenditures of 12,000. So right now we're probably even on that account, Grand Crossing. That's mainly been the ice skating rink. But if you go to the last page of the financial report, which is on page 38, community center will be right on target. It's on page 38. The rec fund, I just want to make a mention of this. I broke it out. Property taxes 83,000. Other revenues basically 200,000, and our expenditures are 180,000. So right now, Jake's revenues, just his revenues and fees are covering the expenditures so far, and that's a good thing right now. So we're on target with that. Unless something happens, we should be, on target. We should in the black by the end of the year on that fund. And if you kind of look in the same page on page 38, you'll see other revenues about 60,000 for the outdoor pool. So the pool wasn't open in May, but they sell passes already, season passes. Also, before COVID was lifted, the restrictions were lifted, Jake was selling like dailies for certain days, like say the 5th day of June. Only so many people could be in that day. So he was selling those in advance. We sold a bunch of those. So now so they got a refund, not refunds, they'll get a coupon for any day to use on those days. So we received already 60,000 of revenues there. But just looking at the current numbers coming in with the revenues, it seems like the pool has been extremely busy. So it's been one of those years that's going to be a lot of revenues, but we'll have a lot of part-time charges too. So it's going to be close. We'll probably break even at the very end.
Alder Wood, did you have a question?
Yeah. Mark, I thought I understood you to say earlier that you were kind of concerned about the park and rec budgets, but then these numbers looking at overall look pretty good.
I'm sorry, I meant just the park by itself, the park, the park portion that's in the general fund.
Okay.
Because that's in the general fund. The rec's in a separate fund altogether.
Right.
The reason why the park funds, just looking at the current numbers that are coming through June, which you don't have, there's been a lot of repairs done to a lot of the buildings, a lot of repairs to equipment and to the facilities, and those numbers are starting to really add up.
Are
So
those just wear and tear, Mark, or are they?
Well, a lot of wear and tears, and it's been shut down for for a year or two, or a year. So there's get everything back to where it should be. So there's a little bit more expenses than a normal year. And I assume a lot of it's probably related to the COVID, COVID being shut down like that. So, especially with the plumbing and things like that being repaired. That's all I have. I do actually one more. Page 29, tourism fund. We basically have almost 36,000 in there for the first quarter. I think those numbers will start jumping up. But if it keeps the same way pattern it's going, we'll be under budget. No, we not. But I'm assuming those numbers are going to jump up here, especially with football coming back, and that's Wisconsin football. I assume haven't heard if the fans are coming back yet. I assume they are because a lot of these colleges are, and that's where we get a lot of big revenues in the fall from the hotels. So I assume that number is going to bounce back. But right now, it's still trending low where it should be in the pre-COVID years.
Okay. Any other questions, Kathy or Doug? Doug?
Yeah, I just wondered if Chief McMullen might want to talk about the paid on premise.
Hope I forgot to mention that one.
Page 15.
Yeah.
I figured you might, so that's one of the reasons that I came tonight. So
Yeah.
I've been looking at the budget document that was sent. The paid on call, I will attribute directly to we're getting more calls and we're getting more volunteers on calls. So that budget line item is going to climb. It's based on a static number from the year before. So as we get more calls, which we're quite a bit up on our call volume, and we're getting more volunteers with a lot of the newer folks responding. That line item is going to go up, unfortunately. Not much I can do to control that. The POP line item, one of the interesting things that I found on taking over is OIC coverage has never been accounted for in the budget. So if I have my volunteer officers covering a shift, they get paid POP just like anybody else. That number is not accounted for in the 36 hours of POP time. So we will correct that going forward next year. But that's one of the peculiarities that I found in the budget, that there was never any accounting for those hours. So if I have a officer, like one of my lieutenants covering OIC on a Saturday, that's 24 hours of coverage. If I take that out of 36 hours of POP coverage, we have nobody on the truck. So we're working on getting that. That's been addressed in next year's budget once I identified it as a problem. So that'll be corrected. The POC line item, I expect will increase in next year's budget as well. Again, based on, we have 4 new volunteers starting into this month. So as we get more volunteers and we get more calls, that line item will climb. We're doing our best at this point to monitor the budget overall to make sure we're staying under budget on an overall basis. So we're doing other things to compensate to account for that. So currently we're under budget, generally just not in those 2 line items. So
They do have one full timer that's been not on leave, but he's with the
military leave.
Military leave, yes. So we do have savings. He took the pay for the military and not from us. So there is some savings on the salaries that will offset some of those costs with that.
That's good.
Because you get offset that with the salaries and the health insurance, so we'll basically cover the 22,000 roughly.
Okay. Alder Wood or Alder Thomas, any other questions?
One other. Somewhere later, I'm not sure what page it's on. There's a note about I believe it's the ambulance fund number apparently is lagging or it's low, I guess. So
the ambulance fund so far is a little bit, the revenue is a little bit down compared to where it should be. But working with this one, I believe it's just a timing issue. A timing issue with the new billing company. So they collect, the old company would pay us as it goes. Here, the new one is collecting and they send us a check at the end of the month. And that check comes the month after. So I haven't received June's yet, or maybe the June payment has recently came. So, and the numbers are getting bigger and bigger. So I believe it's just the timing of the issue. It should catch, hopefully it should catch up here.
Yeah, Doug, the last payment in May from the 2 companies, because we're still getting some from EMS billing, combined actually exceeded the $38,000 mark for that month. So the monthly report that I gave to the council should show that as well. I got that number after I submitted it the first time, so I had to resubmit it. So
okay, good, thanks.
Yep. Anyone else? Do we usually vote to accept the financial report?
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept the report?
Move.
Alderwood seconds.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Report is accepted. Move on to acceptance of general fund accounts payable checks dated June 4th to 17th, 2021. Documentation of invoices paid is available in the city clerk's office.
A lot of it's just average, usual business in here. Page 40, CDW government server room switches. That was planned as part of the 2021 capital. Page 42, Hamburg contractors, Gateway Green, which is underway. Page 44, Midwest Meters, meter replacement program. I believe we're winding down. I know there's left in the residential, I believe there's less than 50 that we still need to replace. So that's almost a full go. We're doing commercial as we speak to. Residential went first.
Excuse me, Mark, is it July that we're going to start the monthly billing?
Yes. Yep. So you're billing late July. So you'll get it in July. Page 45, Robert Nichols, library electrical upgrade is part of the 2021 capital. Page 46, just so you're aware, waste management, WM Corporation Services, which is waste management. They bought out or advanced disposal. They had some billing issues since they took over advanced disposal. So a lot of this is catching up from prior months. That's why it looks like it's so big. So their billing's still a little bit behind. We're working with Dan getting it all fixed. So there's some corrections that probably come in, but so that's why the 71,000 looks so big for waste management. Page 52, we're looking over the budget for the legal part. Gunta Law Offices is the Walker claim. You know, our first, we have to pay the first $37,500 for each claim. We're nowhere near that amount yet. It's until our insurance kicks in. Page 53. Again, it's just Johnson Trees, still doing the ash tree removals. Quick Trip and Landmarks or fuel. Fuel's been up a little bit. Page 54, McCabe Nursery. So they will start replacing the trees right later in the year with the purchase of the right-of-way tree replacement. I'm sorry, was I muted for a while?
Just a bit.
That's all right. Page 56, Monona Community Festival, the 2020 tourism grant. With it being canceled last year, it's rolled over into 2021. And that's all I have.
Any questions on the bills? Is there a motion to accept the bills?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Bills are accepted. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.